Welcome to the Innovative Entrepreneur Podcast, where every week we interview rising entrepreneurs. This week we have a return guest. This is her third appearance. Please welcome Benazir Daruwalla. She's the founder and principal partner of CyberMinds Consulting.
Thanks, Glenn. Just to quickly summarize from the first two episodes of our podcast series with you, CyberMinds Consulting is a boutique firm that offers specialized cyber advisory services to mid-sized enterprises across all industry sectors, especially financial services, biotech, pharma, and healthcare. We work on the assumption that the firm has already invested in a cybersecurity strategy, has some kind of security assessment in place, as well as has implemented some level of controls. We don't come in to create cybersecurity strategy for you ground up. We leverage what an organization has, we validate it, and we work with their stakeholders to make it better. And how we do that is by using our framework and our methodology that has templates and catalogs built in to help accelerate this exercise, this process. The ultimate goal being to enrich the cyber plans with relevant business context and use it to make risk-reducing investment decisions for critical assets.
So help me understand, Benazir, cybersecurity strategies are created with risk reduction goals in mind. Won't the business context be a critical component, or am I missing something?
Yes, very true. The goal of cyber is to reduce and mitigate business risk. But reality is far from perfect, right? In reality, business strategies, in some cases, even CIO strategies are formulated without proactive consideration of their cyber implications, putting the cyber teams often in a very defensive or a reactionary mode. The CISOs end up taking a one-size-fits-all approach to policy implementation with an impossible workload and a constant demand for additional spend on people. Meanwhile, the cyber teams are also constantly adjusting to the latest industry trends around threats, risks, and controls. So very little effort is actually spent creating the right level of documentation that would ensure investment decisions are data-driven and that business value can be measured as controls get implemented.
So you're saying a greater focus is put on the latest technical ideas and technology implementations, then tracing them back to the business context.
Correct. Just to clarify a bit there, when we talk about business context, we are not talking merely in terms of application criticality or data sensitivity. When we talk about business context, it has to do with how the users in an organization or otherwise are interacting with applications and the underlying infrastructure to create value along the way. Also, when it comes to annual cyber spends, there's a fine line between too much and not enough. Without clear traceability to business context and business value, where would you confidently draw the line? So our framework is built to help answer that very question. Are your cybersecurity strategies too much, or are your cybersecurity strategies good enough to protect the most critical business processes and functions that are existential to business?
That's interesting. I was reading some of the industry reports that cyber budgets will top 40% of the total IT budget for 2021. The organizations will see an increase of about 10% from the previous years. Of course, that's dependent on the sector. How can CISOs justify the increase and ensure that they are being put to the right uses?
Correct. The global pandemic is forcing firms to reconsider how they conduct their daily business, their daily operations, by enabling capabilities such as remote work and boosting their digital presence, which opens up to new attack vectors, among others. There's also a lot of buzz in the industry about the need for organizations to upgrade their network and the infrastructure security controls by investing in perhaps a more proactive risk-based capabilities that are promoted by concepts like zero trust, micro-segmentation, and so on. Now, that being said, cybersecurity does not have a carte blanche. every dollar spent needs to be objectively accounted for as it comes at the expense of other corporate investments. As organizations continue to struggle to make their way out of the adverse effects of 2020, I strongly believe that this is the right moment, this is the right opportunity for organizations to revitalize their cybersecurity plans, starting with identifying and assessing the real risk exposures to the complete business stack as opposed to just technology infrastructure alone. And of course, they can make this palatable and consumable by prioritizing critical business functions first.
Well, I was going to ask you what's your solution, but I think we're about out of time. So let's keep that for the next episode. But in closing, how about a quick statement?
Sure. So we want to help organizations create a baseline of assets with documented traceability between critical business functions, the infrastructure, threats, risk, and controls at a strategic as well as at an operational level. The framework we built is called Business Threat Risk Analyzer. We're working toward automating this framework as well so that the business, technology, and cyber leaders can analyze and simulate the threats, the risks, and the controls across their end-to-end business stack to make informed risk-reducing investment decisions rather than rely solely on SOC and other operational tools as a focal point for visibility. So as someone rightly said, we want organizations to invest in hospitals, not just ambulances alone. So our focus is to help organizations or to help facilitate organizations look at the threat from end-to-end business workflow point of view as opposed to just at the technology infrastructure or at an operational level.
That's great. I look forward to the next podcast, and thank you again.
Thank you, Glenn, for having me again. Appreciate your time.